So check 2009, you'd been at Leinster 4 years, you'd won the Celtic title the year before, but you come up against Munster in the semis. Obviously, so much history there, an incredible rivalry on and off the field. Talk me through that game.
Yeah, I'd say it's up there with the biggest games I've ever been involved with. Obviously, World Cup final, massive. Super Rugby final for your home state, that's massive too. And this one, more than the final, it was a semi-final because, like, I'll try to put it in context for you. I remember it was played at Croke Park, which for those that don't know, that's they're the home of the Irish games. So Gaelic football, hurling. And obviously it's got historical significance around the Irish, the Battle of the Irish in Civil War. And obviously the English games, rugby, so they're never to be played there. And with the renovation of Lansdowne Road, they did a historic deal where rugby was allowed and soccer were allowed to be played at Croke Park. And it was extremely controversial. But it worked out that in that semi-final, we got to play an all-Ireland semi-final of the European Cup. And the other, I suppose, big significant point was that in the year one of my time at Leinster, we somehow fluked it through to the semi-final of the European Cup as well, off the back of a great win in Toulouse. Again, they were the number one team in Europe down in Toulouse. And then, Munster gave us an absolute hiding a few weeks after at Lansdowne Road. So Leinster had, even though they were the city slickers and they had all the, they called them the cappuccino set, the Dubliners. But Leinster was more than Dublin, it was the whole province. And I think we took time to incorporate that whole idea of getting the province all together. And it took us that time to really fight back. In the Lansdowne Road game in 2005, we were shocked because we turned up and it's in Dublin, the three-quarters of the stadium was red, Munster red, Leinster blue. And I think we were shocked by that. But on this day, it had shown the development that the club had made around the region, everything like that. We turned up to what was the biggest occasion. I remember it was half, the way they'd set up the stadium, they'd put them in blocks, so it was literally checkered, half blue, a section blue, a section red, a section blue, a section red, and we had half, if not more, of the stadium. And I remember walking out onto the field after the final words in the dressing room with John O'Gibbs, who has coached the European Cup, many European Cup finals, and just recently coached in the 2021 with La Rochelle. And I said, he's a New Zealander, and I said to him, mate, what are we doing here? This is a national event. This is, it's as big as anything that's going to happen in the country. Look at this, and we're stuck, we're in the middle of it somehow. It's like got caught up in a cyclone, and you were just there by accident. And it did get felt a little bit like that on the day, like an out-of-body experience, thinking, why are we even involved in this? Because it took on so much importance for both camps and for Ireland as a whole. And the fact that it was played at Croke Park gave it even more impetus. And it was all set up for me because just in the month before, the weeks before, Munster had a record number of players selected in the British Lions. Paul O'Connell was a selected captain. So, there's nothing like a great underdog story, and that was us. And we'd always been behind them. In the recent history, they'd always led the way. They'd won a European Cup. And they were the more competitive team, probably the more loved team throughout Ireland as well. So there was a lot more on the line than just the game. Yeah. It was almost like it was the climactic choice, decide you have to take, like in a movie, you have to take that moment now to get to your strength. And it's almost like we had no choice. And they played like they had no choice that day. And we won the day brilliantly, but the occasion was, what I'm talking about now, I get, still the shivers because it was such a huge day for the sport in a country. It's amazing how effective it can be in bringing a nation together, even though they may be supporting two different teams.
How did you approach that as the coach one of the most important figures in one of the teams involved in this, but also as basically as an outsider, as an Australian, not of that whole history. How did you approach it? Was it an issue that you had to sort of reckon with?
Well, no, the coaching, I found it okay because the coach in me said, okay, we want to win Europe. So if I went right back to the start of Leinster, when I went there, I said, okay, we want to win Europe. Well, there's Munster. They're up there. They're pretty close to winning Europe or in the finals. They're just down the road and we get to play them many times every year. So if we can be better than them, we'll be close to being up there in Europe. And that's exactly how it turned out. So to play them at that time was, I think, perfect for us. That was a perfect challenge. It's more than just making it to the final. It's about, like all matters rugby, it's about surpassing yourself. What can I do? What can I achieve as an individual? And then as an outsider, I suppose I had that, like I said, outsider feeling, like I am part of this, but I'm not part of this. I'm part of the team and the movement of the team, but I'm not part of the history. I have my own little part now, but there's a history of all the players that have played before in that contest and all the, one of the great things for me on that day was seeing, and I don't know if we ever see it here in Australia, and you'd love to see it, all the ex-players, Leinster players, and they had them on TV and everything in different parts of the stadium with jerseys on, like genuine fans, not, up in the box sipping a few beers and Chardonnay and getting, genuine fans down there with the fans because they wanted their team to win so badly. And that's very good to see as part of a history, But I think, I felt a little bit. It was nice. It was almost like I could help from the outside without being too caught up in it emotionally.
How does Irish whiskey get involved in this game?
Irish whiskey gets involved in most games over there, let me tell you. There was a few had probably pre-match by me and post-match by most others to calm the nerves the night before. But it's a great footy over there. Like I was so lucky to be involved in rugby over there. I've got great friends there. I'm still obviously, all the clubs, I'm very lucky. I'm one of the few with all the clubs I've been involved with. I've got great relationships with still. I've still got my good friends and players, players I coach are coaching there now. So we've got a strong connection. And I think that experience, being there over 5 years, taking the team from where they didn't want to be to where they really wanted to be, and also leaving that and leaving at the right time so that someone else could then take it forward and create even more success, because personality of the club changes over time. So I'd be very proud of that, and whenever you've got something to celebrate, you clink a couple of Irish whiskies. I wasn't much for the Guinness. I love the way it looked, like it was in the big glass and looked great. Then I'd take a couple of sips and that was it. I couldn't have any more. But the Irish whiskey I like, definitely.